everybody, what's going on? This is Jeremy coming at you once again with Redtired Podcast. I'm here with my buddy, Old Faithful himself, the horse that had a broken leg, but we still didn't shoot it, Mr. Jacob Valdez. Good morning, Jacob.
Good morning, everybody. Man, it has been crazy. You know, one thing I saw in your post before we get started was the rally that we had this Friday on the market. And I felt like commenting. I just didn't find the time of day just to jump on Facebook real quick and do it. And then if I did, I forgot, was you done told them so.
I done told you. I told you. So for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, a few weeks ago, I posted on Facebook to all of my friends, you know, when the market went way, way down, I'm like, hey guys, now's the time to start buying. Get in, buy some stock. Whatever it is, invest in something. Invest in something that you feel is safe, a company you trust, whatever it is. I gave the advice. I'm like, the market is probably hitting bottom. You're going to want to get in. I don't know how many people took my advice, but I know I took my advice, and I know for me it's paid off very well. I've actually doubled my money so far just in a month. That's not bad.
Nope. Any great return in the positive is not bad.
Yeah. Most people
all you did was sit down.
Just sit here, watch. Okay, this is it now. Market
didn't require any hard labor
click.
whatsoever.
No, it didn't at all. It's a matter of being patient. And here's the thing is a lot of people, like, they put their money into the market and they're looking for like 9, 10, 11% return per year. And I'm like, dude, I can do that in a day. Come on. You gotta know what you're looking for. You gotta know where you're putting your money. And it does take a little bit of patience, but you know, there's methods to make money what if I told you I knew a method that, you know, you put your money into the market and whether the market goes up, down, or sideways, you still win.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're out there.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
I'll take that for $1.
Yeah. And exactly. I'll charge more than $1 to teach you, but the idea that, you know, a 10% return over year, like, that's passive investing, and that's fine, but there's much more active ways to make much more money. And I just don't understand why people I don't want to say they sit on the sidelines, but a lot of people do.
No, they let fear control their actions. Then education. We talked about this in numerous podcasts about how, sorry, I backed away from the mic. How your mind is quickly just jumps right into emotions without no questions asked, you know, when it comes to the fight or flight mode, and not really sit down and be like, you know what, let me run, even not taking your advice fully. I would be like, let me run a scenario real quick in my head and take 2 minutes out of the time of my day to be like, would it really work out? Do I have the funds to kind of take this kind of risk? Because there is the risk factor in there still when it comes to stock markets, but still I took the time to think about it and be like, you know, I can't put as much money probably than Jeremy would, but I will put an amount to kind of be like, I'm going to learn from this lesson, or I'm going to take this advice, and kind of just jump into it and see what kind of progress I can make out of it, because that will be something that will benefit me in the long run if I did take the risk. And if I didn't, I wouldn't gain anything or lost anything, but still there is still that chance of me gaining something. And I'm not going to fully indulge into my fears or my emotions when it comes to taking someone's advice during this trying time. And that's what I really are getting upset over the media over this, you know, and anything they talk about the stock market, they make it sound like it's war. Have you noticed that? Or anything with COVID-19, they're like, the nurses in the front line. The front line of what?
Bunch of empty hospitals. There's a lot of nurses that are talking about like, our hospital beds are empty. They're furloughing us. They're taking pay cuts. It's weird. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, and it's only the hospitals that are jam-packed or no beds. Those are like New York, but they make it sound like it's like that across the country, which it's not.
It's not. It's not like that at all in many, many places.
I would say honestly, and this might be not far from, I say 80% of the hospitals in our country are not
occupied.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Or not full. because like you have states that are huge with hardly any population, and I'm just guessing like Montana, South Dakota, North Dakota, those big land masses that the residents are spread out.
Wyoming.
And what they're doing are just judging on just the major towns like New Orleans, San Fran, LA, New York, and like I understand they're hurting. I understand there's, but I hate when the media plays it that way we're going to judge off these hospitals and there's going to be like that across the board.
Yeah. Well, you kind of have to use larger cities as a measuring stick. And there's a good reason for it. It's largely because if you consider the level of how compact the city is, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You've got New York is like 8 million people, and they're all jam packed onto this little tiny island.
Yeah, and that's more than the state I live in now.
Yeah,
South Carolina has 5.
And so you're in constant contact with people left and right. So for especially a city like New York City, you've got like the potential for viruses to spread very quickly because you're constantly, touching elbows with somebody or passing by somebody who's coughing or whatever. They're all in this little sardine can, this little compact area. They don't know what fresh air is. That's a new concept to a lot of people who live in places like New York City. Like, fresh air, what is that? I don't understand.
I don't need vitamin D.
Yeah.
Sun.
Look at this. Yeah, we're still. It's still gray up there. Huh. I wonder what a blue sky looks like. And they're not used to anything like that where they're not in this very, very small contained area.
Yeah, you brought up a good point because I think the only greenery in a city like that was Central Park.
Yeah, well, if that, and everybody and their mom is there all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And so you've got places like that, like the New Orleans, like Austin, where you can't turn without bumping into somebody. Whereas places like where I live, places like where you live, like you could walk to the grocery store and you might not even run into anybody.
Actually, you're right. There are days I just walk to the grocery and I don't see anybody except a few people in our grocery store now.
Yeah.
Even during this time.
And it's a completely different aspect. So when you take into account places like, say, Texas, for example, in Texas, we're pretty spread out. Like, we got a lot of land out here, and it's pretty common for us to be able to keep our distance, no problem. Well, I can't say the same for if I was living in New York. If I was living in New York City, for example, where my neighbor is 3 feet away from me on this side and maybe 6 feet away from me on this side, and I live in a little teeny tiny closet that they call an apartment, I'm probably going to be a lot more susceptible to catching the virus because everybody has to go through the hallway to get to the apartment. One person gets it, and then everybody in the building is basically screwed. It's a totally different ballgame, so it's going to spread a lot faster there, and that's the original point. Is New York, the big cities, like they're the ones that are measuring stick because they're the ones that are most at risk.
Yeah, I just don't want. One thing I'm arguing the point is that I don't think they should terrify the whole country because of a few major cities.
Absolutely,
and judge it.
Absolutely agree.
Now that we're finally curved a little bit and we're finally gonna be released from our prisons and on parole here, how do you think the recovery process is going to be economic wise?
Well, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Nothing changed for some of us. Nothing changed for me. In fact, I got more busy. I've been doing more work than ever because of all of the coronavirus and everything like that. So, to me, I think that, actually we should probably just go ahead and dive right into it. How about that? Because the Daily Mail reported yesterday, I guess, well, at the time of this recording, it was yesterday, Texas will be the first state to reopen, starting with public parks and retailers next week. They're allowed to do curbside or home deliveries, but the schools are going to remain closed. So there's already a plan in place. They're sitting here going, okay, like we got to obviously protect our kids because that's the most important thing is protecting their immune systems, right? And there's been theory that, kids can bounce back from COVID-19 better than adults can, but we just don't have enough information to make those decisions yet.
Mm-hmm.
So we're at that point where we're kind of bunting to try to see what works best and what doesn't. And so bearing that in mind, the governor of Texas decided, like, okay, we're just going to keep schools closed because that's a lot of interaction. We can mitigate that. Let's not do it. So that's the route that he's going with. So we're going to be able to open up certain businesses next week. They're going to open up the parks on Friday. So the Parks and Recreation can open back up April 24th. Certain retailers are going to be allowed to reopen, but only if they can do curbside or at-home services, deliveries. People will be allowed, like, you can't go inside the store or the business. I think, well, with hindsight, like with what we were just talking about, the New York thing, the Daily Mail says that Texas has a population of 29 million, but we've only had 17,000 coronavirus cases. So that's a really low number. That means that we did a pretty good job, I think.
Oh, yeah, compared to other countries, yes.
Yeah, it was like Italy, compared to Italy.
Well, one thing my wife and I were talking about, because I've been there before, and my wife used to live there for a little bit, is they live on top of each other. The whole country pretty much does, just like the city of New York. And matter of fact, I think Italy is just as big.
Is it?
if not, it's not that. Italy is not that huge of a country. So
yeah,
no. But one thing I would like to say though is that I do like these governors that are taking the initiative and not really relying on the federal agency to make decisions for them. And and that's what our founding fathers did, and gave us those opportunities as states to make their own decisions when it comes to their state issues. Now, I wish that the response was the same for most of these states though too as well. Instead of being like, well, we're just going to be sitting here and do the same thing, even though 100 people died. I'm just going to wait for the man to say something first. So if anything goes wrong, I get to blame him.
Yeah, well, it's not really up to Trump whether or not the states open back up.
No, but I'm saying that's what they were doing anyway.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so my point is for a governor to sit back and say, well, you know what, I'm just going to wait for Trump to tell us we can. That way I avoid backlash. That's irresponsible. Like, you have information in front of you. You have numbers in front of you. You have all the data in the world based on your state. And this is like, the grandparents trying to decide what's best for the parents and how to raise the children. Like, yeah, I get it, but listen, grandma, grandpa, I've got more information on this kid than you do. Back off. I got this. And that's how a responsible parent would do business. Likewise, the state's governors should be doing the same thing. They should be saying, hey, listen, we appreciate your guidance, President Trump, or vice president, or whoever the hell it is that's on that board. We appreciate all of your guidance, but here's the deal. This is my state, and ultimately the responsibility for this state, good or bad, indifferent, everything in between, it falls on me. I got this. And I think that's what Governor Abbott's doing.
Yeah. And another thing for the private sector side, and I really hope this is lessons learned, is put jobs back in America. Yeah. Like, quit relying on workers from another country. This would have been all avoided, or at least curbed a lot faster, if we didn't rely on such manufacturing items in China.
Yeah, we're talking about the export of jobs overseas, and here's the deal. Like, you can take a stance on this one however you want to. I'm kind of like, I've been kind of been a little bit milquetoast on the whole issue for several years, until I could form and develop my own opinions based off of this stuff. And working at the Postal Service really cemented my opinions on unions. I'm not a pro-union guy. I don't see a purpose for them. I think that they push the I think they push productivity like into the ground, and they almost incentivize people to push jobs overseas. It, you know, if you, I don't know if you've ever worked in a union environment, it's a high stress environment, and it doesn't have to be like, dude, mail. Like how high stress can working for the federal government and delivering mail be? It's incredibly high stress. There were times when I came home and I was like, I'd rather be in Iraq than have this job. This job sucks.
Oh, that sucks. That's pretty bad.
Yeah. And I got understanding of the inner workings of the unions because I was nominated to be a representative for the union because I knew how to argue. I knew how to defend myself. And so it kind of got pushed to the next level eventually where I was nominated to be the union vice president. I ran unopposed. So I was elected as the union vice president in my local branch. When you're the union vice president, they send you on all these different union trips and all this stuff. And so I went to Houston to go to one of the national meetings. And I got to tell you, man, like a lot of the people that were there were very polite. They're very nice people, but you know, in meeting some of the leadership at the national level, I was like, you know, have you ever seen that episode of South Park, the smug episode where the guys are farting and then sniffing their own farts?
Yeah.
That was the leadership at the NALC. This guy was so smug. They were talking about on the national stage, and I know we're getting way off topic here. This guy was on the national stage was saying, "Hey, look, you don't have to worry about 6-day delivery going away. That's not going to happen. This isn't their company. This is our company." I went, "What? No, it's not. It's not our company. We're the union for the company. But does this guy think that we own the company? Oh my God.
It needs to be private first to own it."
Yeah, no, the American citizens own the Postal Service, if anybody. Oh my God. And so I just went down a really dark path during that time in my life, and there was a lot of light shed on it, and I'm very anti-union for that reason because it kills jobs.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It does. Now, another thing is that everybody, now that you know phase 1 should be infecting majority of the states here this upcoming week, or not the following week, when it comes to reopening the economy and getting those. I really do hope though that through this time people have learned about money, you know, and savings, you know. And I wished and I hope and I know some American families don't have the luxury like most families do, so they had to use that money right away. But I'm going back to the money that we were given, our stimulus checks to buffer us through. I really do hope some of these Americans made really great choices when it came to utilizing it or saving it for maybe another rainy day like this again. I don't know.
I'll tell you what I did.
What's that?
I made a huge principal payment on a mortgage on my rental property. You know why? Because I saw it like, actually, I think I talked about this on a previous podcast, but I saw this money and I'm like, I'm just going to take it and I'm going to put it somewhere it's going to grow. That's what we did. Because the way I see it is like, it's not free money. I know Uncle Sam next year is going to say something to the tune of, "Oh, by the way, don't forget, you owe us that money from, remember that stimulus we gave you? Yeah, we want it back." I'm not going to deal with that. So I'm just going to put it somewhere it's going to grow. So, and you're right about something though. The importance of the savings account. This time, a lot of people were kind of caught with their pants down. They didn't have a savings account. And the old argument goes like, well, you know, not everybody can afford to save money. Really? If you can't afford to save money, then what are you spending your money on in the first place? That means that you're living way above your means. It's not that complicated. Don't spend money you don't have. Put some money away.
But I got this credit card.
Oh my gosh. I got to tell you about this. There's some neighbors that there's some people in my neighborhood. They just went and bought brand new vehicles. I don't mean like, oh yeah, no, we're going to trade in. We're going to get a little bit of an upgrade. No. They went and bought brand new $50,000 vehicles. She is now driving a $56,000 Corvette, and he bought a $50,000 Chevy Silverado. That's $106,000 worth of debt.
Dude, me and you can pull out a loan and buy a small house and turn it into a duplex with that kind of money.
Oh, dude, I could
50-50 on that.
I could totally recreate. Yeah, $100,000. Do you know what I could do with $100,000? I'll tell you what I wouldn't do with it. I wouldn't buy a new Silverado or a new Corvette. No way, not a chance. I couldn't. Like, and my kids had even told me, like, oh yeah, our neighbor's got new cars. I'm like, yeah, great. Who cares? Then I'm walking to the mailbox and I see this brand new Corvette, like parked in the garage. I'm like, no. Wow. Oh,
there's a stand-up joke about Blue Tarp guy, El Madre. He's a stand-up comedian. He talks about this guy in his neighborhood. He calls him Blue Tarp guy because he always has this blue tarp over his roof because he never fixes his roof to keep the leak out. Mm-hmm. And he always judges this guy because he's like, are those new Adidas, mother? Fix your roof. And he's like, yo, he tries to be friends with me. He's like, yo, have you seen Titanic? I'm like, no. Have you seen Titanic? Save up,
Yeah, man.
Get the damn blue tarp off your house.
I don't understand that logic.
But yeah, I understand that. And I bet you're like, and I'm not saying Jeremy lives in a good neighborhood. So I bet you're like looking at their house. Like you could have just, do some trimming of the trees maybe, or like instead of spending on a Corvette and a Silverado.
I mean, I know what they paid for the house that they bought. I don't know these people personally. I just know what the house was listed at when it was sold and how quickly it sold. They paid full price for it because it was worth every penny. It was a good buy. The house was only like $165 when it sold. And so that's a dirt cheap buy. That's a good buy, but I'm not like, I'd be happy to have that $165,000 house, but if it came along with $106,000 worth of debt because of two cars, I'm like, because listen, folks, that's a depreciating asset. It's really not even an asset, but banks like to classify a vehicle as an asset. Well, as soon as they drove that vehicle off the lot, I guarantee you they lost $10,000 on each. It's crazy. It's a crazy way to spend money. Why would you do
depreciation, that? Man, it's hard. That's why I say, man, don't finance anything that rusts, rot, or depreciate it. And You know what? The car does all three.
Could you imagine where they'd be sitting right now if they would have put that same $100,000 into the market?
Yeah. I understand splurging, but man, I don't splurge on if I'm going to splurge, I splurge on experience. If I had the free income to, I'm not saying like, I'm not all about having fun or enjoying life because I'm all about save. No, but if I am going to spend like just thinking family, the $3,000 that we got, $2,900, I'm going to just blatantly say that's what my wife and I got. If I was going to splurge it, I'll splurge it on experience, as in like I'll save it until, the cruises open up or do something that spend quality time with either my wife or my son and not a vehicle.
No. I always ask the question, like, if I'm going to spend money, how does this return money? The ROI, return of interest, I think is what it is. And that's always the question is like, okay, if this is going to serve me in some way, then yes, I can afford to buy it. So, I went and bought a video camera so that I could do those videos for the real estate agency. That made perfect sense because in the long run, the camera serves me well and I get paid off of it.
Yeah. And extra income, which you can start saving up for even instead of doing it that like, I understand what you're saying. So you basically said, and I'm just using it as an example. I really don't know how much you spent on a camera, but say you got the 2,900 or the 3,000, whatever. And you decided to be like, well, I'm going to buy a $2,000 camera because I have projects lined up that's going to equal to $5,000.
Yeah, that would make perfect sense. But
yeah,
that's not where I'm at. I bought a small handy cam. Well, it's a camcorder. It's a Canon Vixia.
No, but I'm saying I'm using that as an example. That's kind of like your frame of thought.
Right. If I'm going to churn out $5,000 worth of work, then I need to have an upgraded level of camera. And I mean, really, the thing is in 2020, you can shoot video on your iPhone just fine and churn out really good quality videos. It's not that complicated anymore, and you can buy little lenses that fit over the phone, so you can get wide angles, and there's just so many different options nowadays. People are very ingenious when it comes to creating new products that solve problems that people didn't know they had. Anyway, so way off track, but we're good at that.
Yeah. No, and it's just this is all about just this episode about the recovery, and hopefully that, you made some right choices, and also, making future correct choices when it comes to the economy opening up. Even if you haven't spent that money, doesn't mean that, oh, my favorite store is going to open back up hopefully next week and I get to splurge or whatever.
Yeah, quit buying stuff from freaking JCPenney or Kohl's or whatever. They're crap companies, and if you look at their financials, you can see they're crap companies. They're selling you $2 jeans that cost $40 because they can make $38 profit off of it. And you just stop buying junk. Stop buying junk. In fact, right now the market is still down considerably from where before the coronavirus hit. So you still have, listen, people, you still have time to put your money into the market and make lots of returns. There's still a long way to go in the recovery. All right. So just put your money to work for you. Let the recovery take care of all the stuff. I mean, if you don't understand anything about the market, fine. Talk to an investment guy. Open up account with TD Ameritrade and just put some money into the S&P 500 and just leave it alone and let it ride. That's like the safest place you can put it. You're not going to lose anything. It always goes up. That's a Wall Street Bets thing. Stocks always go up. It's a joke.
No, yeah, you're right. And I actually I bumped into somebody who was trying to have a conversation with me, and I said, yeah, he overheard me it was at the pharmacy. He overheard me saying that the pharmacy says, well, we're going to try our best to kind of save you money for medicine for your son. And I'm like, well, I'm not here to nickel and dime you. I get paid regardless. I'm retired. Whatever you're going to charge me for it, go ahead. If my insurance is not going to cover it because my son needs it. And I prepared for something like this to happen, regardless if I was getting paid or not. And then the guy was like, well, I will have tons of money too if it wasn't for Christmas and buying my kids. And I'm like, well, it still ends up being your choice. You are the father and your kids are not in charge. And doesn't mean that because your son or daughter asks for something, doesn't mean you give it to them.
Yeah. I'd have lots of money if I didn't have to spend it.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
No, yeah. And so I was like, I was thinking in my head, like, okay, I had Christmas too, and I have a son, and I was still smart on not buying him, the latest and greatest bed or whatever, that he needs. 3 years old, so he doesn't have a want yet. But if he did, I wouldn't be dumb enough to be like, well, our son wants a $5,000 TV. I'm going to go ahead and get it for him.
Yeah. Here's a crazy idea. Don't buy your kid freaking AirPods and an iPhone 11 XS Max. Your kid doesn't need that.
Yeah.
But my kid needs a phone. Okay, buy him a cheap used phone because he's going to tear it up anyway.
And you would be in better suit to be financially suited better for the situation.
Yep.
And you would have had, a little bit of money for groceries, a little bit more money for hand sanitizer or whatever to keep your family safe. Your internet, to upgrade your internet now because your kids are going to be going to school. So those are the things that what Jeremy and I are talking about is to start thinking about, when
could you imagine trying to reconcile that? Well, my kid needs the phone. Well, yeah, but you need toilet paper. Like, which one is really more important in this day and age? Well, it's really important. My kid has a phone because they've got the Zoom meetings in the school, blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. So buy them a used phone. Used? Ew. Yeah. See, when I meet a person like that and they're like, ew, and they say things like that, like, well, but I want the new one. I immediately distance myself from that person because I know that that person is toxic. I know that that person is not in the right frame of mind for me to be around because I don't want to be like this. Listen, I'll teach you all day long if you want to know how to do something, but I'm not going to surround myself with people who are going to be unwilling to learn or unwilling to teach or unwilling to grow. I don't do that. I don't mess around with that. I don't want nothing to do with that. I stay as far away from that crap as I can.
And here's me being honest of what I did for our money, right? I bought my son 3 sets of pajamas because he's growing, right? His old pajamas are not fitting him. So I bought him 3 sets of pajamas that he can grow into. So I don't have to worry about it for another year or so, depending on how fast he's going to grow. I bought 1 nonstick pan for the YouTube show for my diabetic dining. Just that was $30 at Target. It was just that was expensive.
Shameless plug.
Yeah. And then also I put the rest in emergency savings to offset the cost that I don't know of listeners out there. You remember I had a vehicle issue that I spent $3,000. So I put the remaining, which was 20 something or 2,600 or 2,800. I know we only got 29. So I only spent like $100.
Yeah.
And the rest was into my savings to kind of offset my emergency funds for the bill that I had earlier with my wife's car.
So essentially, Uncle Sam gave you your money back to be able to pay for your car repairs.
Yeah.
Yay. And something to celebrate, again, I guess.
Yeah, but it's something that, something like this happens again. I'm like, oh, cool. I don't have to worry about rebuilding my savings all up again. I threw money in there. Now it's not where I want it to be, but doesn't keep me from not continuously throwing money in there every month, which is the way I set it up is 1 paycheck goes in there out of the few that I get. And I don't look at it. Try to forget about it until issues arise.
Yeah. And that's the thing is we got to think of savings. When you talk about a savings account, you have to think of the savings account as the cushion that catches you when you fall, because guess what? You're going to fall. Everybody slips, everybody falls, something happens, you lose a job, break an arm, break a leg, whatever it is. Kid needs braces and they need them now, whatever. There's always something that comes up. And so when you can say, well, that's all right because I've got the money in my savings account, it's ready to go. I'll just transfer it over and I'll write you a check. Like, dude, that's a huge sigh of relief for a lot of people.
Yep.
When my kid needed braces, I'm like, well, when do we have to get it done? Well, we've got financing options, so you don't have to worry. No. We don't finance. I'm going to pay you, and you're going to give me a discount. And I went, oh, well, you know what? Yeah, hold on. Go run crunch numbers, and they come back, and they're like, well, because you're going to give us a discount, we can knock like $400 off the bill. I said, here's my card. It's that easy.
Instead of $400 of interest,
dude. Well, no. $400 discount plus all the interest that I would have accrued.
Yeah.
So really, maybe $800. Who knows? I don't know how much it would have cost, but you know what? I wasn't about to slap that sucker on a credit card. That's insane.
Yeah.
Well, we got 0 interest if you just make sure that you pay it. So what? Maybe I just don't need it that bad. Like, oh, this is a good one. I always get a kick out of this when somebody's like, well, I went to the car dealership and I bought this new truck. I'm like, that's why? Okay, cool. Brand new truck. Yeah, I got a great deal on it. No, you didn't. You paid MSRP. Well, yeah, but I got a 0% loan. So what? You just dropped $50,000 on a vehicle that lost $10,000 the second you drove it off the lot. I got to take a deep breath here. So,
I like your living room, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Is that
man.
you just moved in?
Well, we redecorated.
That is awesome, dude. I'm still like amazed about that. I'm waiting for the family to run in and sit on the couch.
I don't know that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. But, you know, I try to come with you at different locations. And so those listening and not watching on the YouTubes, I'm actually here in the Simpsons living room in lovely Springfield. And I can't tell you what state because that's against the rules, but I'm here in Springfield in the Simpsons living room. The walls are decorated very well, and I rather enjoy it here.
Yeah. That is awesome. I just recently saw a skit on a Simpsons episode that Homer teleported into Bob's Burgers kitchen, and that was hilarious. And Bob was freaking out when he saw Homer there a little bit, and then it was during the Bob's Burger intro, so the Homer was trying to freak out because the building caught on fire because it's just like the intro on Bob's Burger.
That's great. I love crossovers. They always make my day. Jacob, I wanted to talk to you about another thing. This is something that caught my eye here recently. Nancy Pelosi, our favorite woman of all the times, has she recently made an appearance on CBS's Late Show. So not the Late Show, because that would be early late. This was the Late Show. You know, the later in the late. So beyond normal time, I guess.
Dude, I like her fancy fridges, by the way, in the background.
$24,000 worth of refrigerators to hold $12 ice cream pints. Probably not the best time to remind the American public that you've gotten rich off of their backs, Nancy.
Yep.
So,
every chef's dream, fridges.
Oh yeah. Those giant freezer side by like
stainless
they're huge.
steel. Yeah.
Yeah, they're giant stainless steel. They're beautiful fridge. But where do you think she got the money for this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
and viewers, just to give you a better illustration in your mind, you only see these kind in upscale restaurants. They're not residential type fridges.
No, these are high quality fridges. But so here, for a little bit of context here, Nancy makes this appearance on the Late Show with some guy who I don't even know, some little fat blonde guy. I don't know what his name is or whatever.
I don't know, some worthless dude from SNL that got his own show. Yep.
Oh, was he from SNL?
Yeah, he's one of them. Yeah, he was on there for a little bit.
Oh, okay. Well, whoever the guy is, I've never watched the show before. I don't have cable TV. I don't care about all that. But anyways, he has Nancy Pelosi on, which is kind of ironic. And Nancy, of course, is talking about how she's trying to keep her spirits up, and she starts bragging about her $12 ice cream that she orders through the mail, standing in front of these $24,000 refrigerators. And this is from Real Clear Politics here. Real Clear Politics says, as this clip from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's interview on CBS's Late Show began to circulate around the internet on Tuesday, the Trump campaign Rapid Response Director Steve Guest pointed out that she's eating $13 a pint ice cream out of a $24,000 refrigerator. So, excuse me, $13, not $12. Wow. That's a lot of money for a pint of ice cream. The Paycheck Protection Program ran out of money this morning because Democrats, led by Nancy Pelosi, blocked the necessary $250 billion replenishment for the program that the congressional Republicans tried to deliver. The Republican National Committee said in a statement on Wednesday, now Nancy Antoinette has to explain to America why she chose to show off her luxury refrigerators and $13 pint ice cream collection from the Chateau in San Francisco instead of funding the Paycheck Protection Program, which has saved millions of jobs across the country. And this is a solid criticism. Why in the world are you going on late night TV and bragging about your situation when people are hurting? Like your sole function in Washington is to help people mitigate, to protect people, to help mitigate.
She just wants to be part of the millennial crew of no hair, don't care kind of attitude.
Do you think this was like her shot at lifestyles of the rich and famous?
Yeah, I guess, dude. I honestly don't know what her frame of thought is.
Yeah, that's what it's starting to look like to me. So Steve Guest got a couple of tweets here for you that go along with the article. Steve Guest said, while Nancy while Nancy sits in her ivory tower in San Francisco eating $13 a pint ice cream out of her $24,000 fridge, she's cheering on Democrats for blocking the coronavirus relief aid that has so far distributed to 1.3 million small businesses that it's about to run out. So this is something that this is a quote from Nancy on the whole show. This is something that you can get in the mail, chocolate. And then we have some other chocolate here, and I enjoy it. I like it better than anything else, and I don't know why, but it agrees with me, Pelosi said. And we just restocked ice cream for Easter Sunday because we were, shall we say, enjoying. I don't know what I would have done without ice cream. That's her. This is the priority right now. I don't know what I would have done without ice cream. How about funding the bill? That's a crazy thought. Maybe protecting the small businesses. That's a crazy thought. So a couple more tweets. James Woods. He says her 2 refrigerators together cost $24,000 for her specialty chocolate ice creams, but she hates the small business owners of America. Quote, let them eat cake. And that's a good point. Why, what, like there's a certain level of hypocrisy here, no?
Not to mention for a house that size to house those kind of fridges, she probably lives in a multi-million-dollar home in San Francisco.
Oh, without a doubt. To be able to live in that kind of a scenario, in that kind of a situation where you've got such a, I mean, it's San Francisco. If you've ever looked at homes in San Francisco, it's ridiculous how large these homes are. It's ridiculous how expensive they are. You know, the taxes alone will eat your lunch. So let's continue. Glenn Greenwald said that her 2 refrigerators by themselves, this is another tweet by Glenn Greenwald says her 2 refrigerators by themselves cost more than many people make in a year. And that's a good point. And
yep.
Continuing, it's so revealing that the politician Dems adore most is one of the richest members of Congress. Pelosi has been so rich for so long that she can't see how tone deaf this is. This is her normal. Oh my gosh. Yeah, think about that for a second. Pelosi has been in power for so long, and she's so rich that she has no idea that there are still Americans that live paycheck to paycheck. She has no idea that there are Americans out there that might not even cross the threshold to be able to pay for her refrigerator. I'm at a loss for words here because in a time of crisis, why are you going on TV and bragging about certain ice creams?
You know what would be more funny if she opened the fridge and she had like test sets of the COVID-19.
That ain't right, man. That ain't right. So what are your thoughts on this whole thing?
Oh my God. I saw it this morning on our news because we try to watch the news just for a little 10 minutes or so in the morning since this whole thing started. And I was like, what is wrong with her? That was my first response. What is wrong with this woman? Mm-hmm. Is she that oblivious? Like, I don't want to insult her intelligence. I feel like they should be like an ASVAB for Congress now. Like you have to be a certain level of intelligence to run for office.
Yeah, for civilians who don't understand the ASVAB, think of it as the equivalent of a college entrance exam, such as the SATs.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think that there should be an intelligence quotient measurement that's done before somebody's able to run for Congress. I absolutely agree. You've got people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez who never would have had a shot in hell. We should be testing these people for intelligence if they're going to be leaders in this country. And, you know, people like Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden, you know, I'm sorry, you're old. You're really, really old. And in my estimation, that makes you ineffective. I think there should be an age cap, just like there's an age limit.
No, yeah, you're right. And it's, if I was in their shoes, and not money wise, but just running for office, I was invited to a talk show, it wouldn't be right to do something like that and to lavish my materials my possessions to others that don't or lost during this time, because people there were people out there that, I'm sorry, I haven't really made the news, but like there's people out there that had greedy landlords that kicked them out because they weren't paying rent. A lot of people didn't have the same response like other companies of giving you the 30-day break or the 60-day break. Hell, student loans, you don't pay them back until September.
I believe it's actually illegal to evict somebody right now. You can't physically do it.
But I'm saying in the beginning, before all this happened and before bills were passed.
Well, if that were the case where people were getting evicted before all this happened, then it wouldn't have had anything to do with the coronavirus in the first place.
Oh yeah.
I have to defend landlords to a degree because there's two sides of the story.
Yeah. No, but what I'm saying is just it wouldn't be right to do something like that.
Sure.
And because no, even when I saw it this morning, I was like, what is wrong with her?
she forgot what it's like to struggle. I don't even know if she's ever struggled in her life.
People don't know why they denied this bill, because what they're trying to do is all the sub paragraphs are trying to slide their little agendas. Let's throw a little bit of the Green Deal in there. And like the first bill had a little bit of the Green Deal. And so when all these bills are done, the complete Green Deal will be complete.
Oh yeah, we're gonna forget all about the things that happened. What was it that museum that they funded for? Or it wasn't.
No, it was the museum, Art Center in DC.
Was it Jefferson or
no, the Washington
Kennedy?
No, Kennedy.
Yeah, it was the Kennedy Art Center. They funded for $25 million, and then just a couple of days later, the Kennedy Art Center let people. We don't need to right now. Wait, you just got $25 million to keep going. Yes, you need those people. We don't need them. Excuse me? Take the money back. Those people need to eat. They have to live. They have to survive. And I'm sorry, no, that's wrong.
Check this out. And what's going to blow your mind, and people, I am not making this up. You could see this on Netflix. There is a Mark Twain Award ceremony for David Chappelle on Netflix. You probably see it's trending right now. It says David Chappelle receives Mark Twain Award. It's a special. It's mostly dedicated to Chappelle and all his stuff in comedy, because the Mark Twain Award is basically a lifetime award for comedy.
Right.
And guess who was there and backstage hugging her way in? Pelosi.
Ew, really?
Mm-hmm. Trying to be hip with all the cussing and everything that was going on in that comedy show. But man, it really upset me, because like at the end, the people who were awarding Chappelle the award was just subliminally just bashing on the administration. You have to really pay attention and read in between the lines when it comes to their speech. And it just so upset at me, and how like the one institution that she wanted money to go to. And honestly, when I first understood, when I read it, I didn't know who was in charge of trying to give the Kennedy Center money until I saw her there. And I'm like, I bet you anything that was her that wanted to give money into the $25 million into the Kennedy Center, because it was shot at the Kennedy Center, and she was there with her husband and with the rest of the Democrats that were there. And you could see them in the stands.
I can't say that I'm surprised. I'm really not. I'm not, because it's just her. It's her. She's trying to be hip and trying to be cool with the crowd and whatever. And I'm sorry, I don't understand the way of thinking. I don't know that there is a thought process that's going on. When
I think Alex was telling me she was wearing a $10,000 dress.
That's probably slumming it for somebody like Nancy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know, man. I don't have I really don't have a lot of confidence in our elected officials. I mean, for the love of God, the DNC is going to run Joe Biden against Trump. Joe freaking Biden. Do you have any idea how much I'm looking forward to the debates?
Mm-hmm.
I
think there's a meeting going on between him, Biden, and Michelle. I don't know if they're trying to get her endorsement or have her as running mate.
Well, Barack Obama already endorsed him.
Mm-hmm.
Which it's kind of like, are you sure about that, Barack? Are you really want to endorse this guy? I think that's a mistake. because Joe Biden is going to go on the national stage, and he's going to debate, and I use the term loosely, air quote, debate Trump, and it's going to be a train wreck. Biden can't speak. Somebody even, I was watching a video recently. It was Tim Pool. Tim Pool said, at this point, this is elder abuse more than anything. You're just abusing this old man it's not funny anymore. We're abusing this old man who has like early stage dementia. And it's not funny anymore. We need to get him off of the stage. We need to quit putting him in front of the video camera. And you need to run somebody else, anybody else. And he's right. One of the points that he brought out was like Bernie Sanders was not the popular guy. A lot of people didn't like Bernie Sanders, but Bernie Sanders could at least remember his talking points with the millionaires and the billionaires and the big companies.
Just put a sock up there with lipstick and call it a puppet, and there you go.
At this point, a sock puppet would be more viable of a candidate. They made a huge mistake. At the DNC in general, because they kept cutting people out people who are getting grassroots support, like Tulsi Gabbard. Look, I'm not a Democrat. I don't like Democrats. For the most part, I think they're slimy little scum. However, every once in a while, you've got one that squeaks through, that makes a lot of sense. It's got some real world experience. It's been to combat. Tulsi Gabbard was a soldier. Granted, it's the National Guard, and we crack on the National Guard all the time because they're weekend warriors and blah, blah, blah. But still, she actually served. She's actually done time in combat. So she has a dose of experience in geopolitics, in being all around the world, seeing how different things work. And that experience translates well into a leadership role within the government. They looked at her, and she satisfied all the criteria, right? She's a woman. She's not white. What more do they need? That's the Democrat platform. Is like, we don't. Oh, well, she's probably rich now, but they don't like rich. They don't like white, and they don't like men, right? So you had Tulsi Gabbard, who's the perfect candidate. She probably isn't nearly as rich. She's definitely not white, and she's definitely a woman. And they shut her out. And they adopted Joe Biden. I don't feel sorry for them in 2020.
Yeah, you're right, dude. And they went the polar opposite with Biden. And to be honest, I hit it right on the dot earlier, and I was joking around. But yeah, I'd rather settle with a sock puppet.
I agree.
I saw him recently when he was trying to bash Trump about the pressure on China. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like trying to run sentences together. And I'm like, you could tell it's edited. And I'm like, what?
Yep. And it's funny because if you listen, and I listened to an excerpt from his podcast, and he speaks clearly and eloquently and blah, blah, blah. Heavily edited, of course. But then you take the same Joe Biden, you put him on the mainstream media, and they do everything they can to prop this guy up, and he just rambles and rants and raves, and nobody even knows what he's talking about. Joe. Hey, Joe, right here. Hey. Come here, Joe.
With a red
China,
balloon
we're
by
talking
the camera.
about China. We're talking about China.
Yeah.
Do some freaking push-ups.
Until next time.
Bye.